and serve him in everlasting righteousness, innocence, and blessedness, just as he has risen from death and lives and rules eternally. This is most certainly true.
Please be seated for the offering. While that is received, we'll be singing hymn number 145, verse 24. Yes, Lord, she told him, I believe that you are the Christ, the Son of God, who was to come into the world. When it comes to repetition, the Apostle John, he's a master at it. He comes back to the same point over and over and over again. In fact, you might be thinking that I've been preaching the same sermon for the last 10 weeks over and over, just changing a few stories. Because it seems that whatever chapter from the Apostle, or from the Gospel of John, doesn't matter where he's at, who he's talking to, what he's doing, John always comes back to that one theme, that Jesus is. Well, maybe you haven't been preaching this sermon too often. Jesus is God. Doesn't he say that over and over again? Jesus is God. Jesus claims to do the things that God can only do. He says the things that God can only say. And he offers what only God can offer. This is John's thing over and over and over again. And today really is the culmination, isn't it? Last week, do you remember Jesus said, I and the Father are one? Now, it's one thing to say that, but prove it, right? Well, he does a pretty good job of proving it today. He comes back to Bethany, and he brings back to life somebody who has been dead for 4 days. Now, today, we're going to look at what does it mean that Jesus Christ has power over death. What does it mean to my life today? That's so important. Without a doubt, eternal life is the most important. Jesus said that over and over again. He said, look, the main thing is that you are ready to enter into eternity. But that doesn't mean that we just kill time until eternity. There is so much to live for. There's so much to do. And yes, there's so much to enjoy that God has given us. And we need to talk about that. One of the great tragedies in the Christian church is that so many Christians aren't very excited about living. We're kind of down in the mouth. And that shouldn't be, if anybody should be dying to live, it should be us. And that's what we want to take a look at today. First of all, what we need to die to, and then what it means to be. Have that enthusiastic view towards life. Now, in your outline, you have a quote from the Apostle Paul from Galatians. And if anybody understood this whole idea of living for Christ, it was the Apostle Paul. He says, I've been crucified with Christ, and I no longer live, but Christ lives in me. The life I live in the body, I live by faith in the Son of God who loved me and gave himself for me. Now, what is he saying with that? He's saying, I'm taking my self-centeredness, that, it's all about me attitude, and I'm going to do what I want. I am taking that, and I'm going to nail it to that cross where Jesus paid for sin, and I'm going to let Jesus Christ be the God of my life every day that I am on this earth. He's going to be the Lord of my life. Now, that doesn't mean that immediately a USB cable dropped from heaven, he plugged it in the top of his head, and then, God was controlling his computer. What it means is that his attitude towards life became God's attitude. It's not, what do I want? We're not looking at people and saying, what am I going to get out of them? It's, how does God want me to react? What does God want me to say? What does Jesus Christ want me to do in this situation? It's an attitude towards life. The problem is that self-centeredness within us is a very powerful and destructive force. And that is what we've got to die to. We've got to be like Paul and crucify him. And you think about that word selfish. It's kind of interesting. All the media, all our ads encourage us to live for ourselves, right? You deserve it, it's all about you, that kind of stuff. But if somebody calls you selfish, that's not a compliment, is it? You don't want anybody to be a self-centered person. Isn't that interesting? That even though our society promotes selfishness, we deep down know